Hi, everybody. Today is July 17th, 2023. It's been 309 days since I visited with my brother, Paul Kierans, who is 65 with Down syndrome in a group home with Larsh. It worries me as the seasons go by. We're almost at a year since I've seen him. That would be 365 days. So I thought, you might be wondering, why did Larsh terminate my visits with Paul? So I had an agreement with Larsh and with Community Living BC. It's the Crown Corporation that pays your tax dollars to Larsh. So Larsh is 100% dependent on your money, your tax dollars. And I had an agreement with Community Living BC and with Larsh that I could visit Paul twice a week for an hour on Thursday and for 5 hours on Saturday at my home. And almost immediately after we reached that agreement, Larsh canceled all visits by Paul with outsiders, so non-Larsh personnel. And they said it was because of COVID-19 and other internal issues with Larsh. So I sued them. That's what started this court case. And as soon as I sued them, the same day they were served, they restored the twice weekly visits. And the twice weekly visits went on as the case progressed until September 12th, when I received a letter terminating my visits with Paul. And I haven't seen him since that time. So the complaint that they say is that Paul's upset when I leave, and he doesn't want to leave my place here at the end of our visits. And that's true. He's disappointed when I leave at the end of our visits, and he doesn't want to leave here, but he always has. I found psychological ways of maneuvering him out the door so that he will leave. But what I believe is the reason that Larsh is so antagonistic to me is that, number one, as soon as I brought this court case, I discovered that my 80-year-old sister in Ontario, who has never contributed anything to Paul's care. So Paul has lived on weekends and holidays with myself and my other two sisters and with my mother here in British Columbia, and all for no remuneration. My sister, who's a nun in Northern Ontario, in North Bay, Ontario, has never contributed anything and has never lived with Paul. She left home when he was born, and she doesn't understand his speech. But I discovered that when my father died in 2013, for some reason, my sister gave Paul's entire inheritance to Larsh. So I discovered that in March of 2022, and I wasn't happy about that. I obtained legal advice, and I was told that that's what's called a breach of fiduciary duty, that my sister, as trustee of Paul's inheritance, was responsible for looking out for his welfare. She left him with nothing. Then the second thing that I discovered once I sued Larsh, and I got a court order for production of a document where Larsh sent the document to the same nun sister in North Bay, Ontario, invited her to become his representative, his legal representative or his guardian. And that was so that he could receive the COVID-19 shot vaccine back on February 1st of 2021. So it was a way of downloading the liability, in my view, downloading the liability for the then experimental COVID-19 shot on my elderly sister in Ontario and on her, the group of nuns that she lives with. And once I got a look at this representation agreement, I applied to set it aside. And because Paul was not mentally capable of appointing a representative, so granting all those personal decisions, he was not capable of making that decision. He was born incapable and has never been capable of appointing a power of attorney, a guardian, or a representative. He is just too low functioning. He functions at about the level of a 15-month-old baby or less. So I believe that, and also once I got to see this representation agreement, I could see that Paul's signature appears to be forged. And the reason I know that is because I took about a year as a child to teach Paul to print the only word that he knows how to print, and that's his first name. And the printing on this document that's purported to be Paul's signature is not valid. It's not representative of his signature. He's never printed that way before, and he has never printed that way since. And what I believe happened is one of L'Arche's employees. So rather than sending Paul to a lawyer and having Paul sign the document in front of a lawyer, L'Arche had two of its employees witness his signature on this document, granting every right that you could imagine. So medical rights, rights of who he would, they say, of who he would associate with. And Paul has always been too low functioning to do that, as I said, and he didn't sign it. That what I believe happened is one of these workers, L'Arche workers, took Paul's hand in their hand and formulated a signature to make him look more intellectually capable than he is. So that's why L'Arche is ticked off at me, is because I complained that my sister gave them his entire inheritance, carte blanche, with no strings attached, nothing left for him whatsoever. And because I have objected and applied to set aside this so-called representation agreement, I applied to the court, and the judge that I applied to said that legally the only person that can assess the validity of this guardianship or representation agreement is a person called the public guardian and trustee of the MVC. And I immediately asked the public guardian and trustee, a woman named Dana Kingsbury, to review this representation agreement and assess it for validity. And they have always refused. They just refused. So two judges have told public guardian and trustee to assess this representation agreement cooked up by L'Arche, and they've refused to do so. So every public agency that is supposed to ensure the protection of vulnerable people like me, I'm a disabled person, and Paul has abandoned or delegated away their responsibilities. So that's a bit of a technical, complicated video for you today. And regardless of what L'Arche's reasons are, Paul has a right to associate with his loved ones, and he has been completely, and I have been completely cut off. So where things stand right now is my application is back before the Supreme Court of Canada. I was corresponding with them today, and the British Columbia Human Rights Commission has opened a file and is investigating on my behalf the breach of my rights as a disabled person to associate with Paul. So that's where we're at today. I had to go to my bank today to deal with the GoFundMe account, and we're at $810 after the GoFundMe has taken its fees. We only have $810 of the $4,000 required for the psychological investigation into L'Arche's isolation and termination of Paul's visit. So please, I've got 5,000 Facebook friends. Hundreds of you are watching these videos. Please share the video, share this information, and kick in a few dollars to our GoFundMe account. I wouldn't have to ask the court to let Paul pay for this investigation if I could pay for it myself. And that's what I want to do. So please consider kicking in a few dollars to our GoFundMe account so that I don't have to ask the court to let Paul pay or someone else pay for this psychologist investigation. I want to be able to pay for it. Thank you so much for watching. Paul, I miss you so much. As the summer goes by, I just think of we could have gone for a nice walk today. We could have gone to McDonald's for an ice cream. I just miss you so much. I hope you're okay. Hang in there, dear. I'm moving heaven and earth to be able to see you again. Bye-bye.